This is the Uno Synth. It's a real analog synthesizer. It's a 2 oscillator design, monophonic of course. So 2 analog oscillators into a 2-pole state variable filter. It has a built-in arpeggiator, a built-in sequencer, a scale mode that quantizes the keyboard to let you play in specific scales. The design is all based on capacitance sensing. So there's no actual switches on it except for the power switch on the back. So it basically senses capacitance from your finger. So it's centered around a 4x4 programming matrix. We have a dedicated cutoff frequency knob over here. Let me do this while holding the mic. And then we have 4 buttons and 4 knobs. So at the top we have our oscillator row, where we can set the waveform for our oscillator 1 and 2. And as I mentioned, they're continuous wave shape. So we start with our triangle wave, and then we can morph that triangle wave into a sawtooth wave. So we have triangle saw to a saw. And then we go from saw to square, and then we have a square wave or a 50% pulse wave. And then the rest of the knob travel is the pulse width of the square wave. That's easy for me to say. So you can go from a 50% pulse width all the way to a 90% pulse width. And you have separate controls for both oscillator 1 and 2. Then you have your tuning controls for oscillator 1 and 2. And what we've done is we've actually put fine tuning and semitone tuning on the same knob. So we're trying to pack as much functionality into this small, simple interface as possible. So in the center of the travel, you can go 99 cents plus or minus, so a semitone in either direction. Oh, and what just happened? So after you get past 100 cents, it starts quantizing to semitones. So if you want to go like a musical fifth, you go past the 100 cents and then up 7 semitones, which is what we have here. So here's an octave. And then I can do the other oscillator, down an octave. Okay, so the next row is the filter row. I mentioned we have a dedicated cutoff knob over here, but then we have 4 filter parameters. So you can select the filter mode, and so we have low pass, high pass, and band pass, depending on where the cutoff frequency is, of course. Right. Then we have our resonance control. An overdrive control, we know what that does, and our envelope amount. So let's bring our cutoff frequency way down, we'll bring our envelope amount way up, and then we go to the next row, which are the envelopes. So there's 4 controls here. To keep it simple, we've given you 2 stages for the filter envelope and 2 stages for the amplitude envelope. So there's attack and decay for the filter. And then attack and release for amplitude. Okay, and in the bottom row is our LFO row. So here you can select the waveform, sine, triangle, saw up, saw down, square, random, and sample and hold. Here's the rate, of course. And of course, when this is synced to external MIDI clock, this becomes the note value. Then we have the amount of the LFO to pitch, so vibrato. Let me turn that rate down a little bit. And to filter. Okay, then below this, we have 5 performance buttons. And these are inspired by like the Yamaha CS80 and the giant GX1 and even like the Roland SH5 and SH2 and that sort of thing. They called it auto bend, I believe, on those. So these are just instant pitch effects. So dive bends down to pitch, dives down to pitch. Oh, let me press the right button. Scoop scoops up to pitch. There's a vibrato button, which of course is pitch modulation. A wah button, which is the filter modulation. And a trem button, which is amplitude modulation. Amplitude, not amplitude. Okay, next to that is a hold button. Okay, you might say, why do I need a hold button? Okay, well, I guess you can do drones and things like that, but it's more useful with the arpeggiator. So the Unisynth has an arpeggiator with several modes, the usual up, down, down, up, but also things like up, down, where it repeats the top and bottom notes, down, up repeats the top and bottom notes, a random mode where it just randomly will do a random order of the notes you're playing, or as played. So if I go this note, this note, this note, it'll arpeggiate in that order. So, and if I put the hold button down, then I can just play a chord. Okay. There's a 16-step sequencer in the synth. That you can program either with real-time recording or with step-by-step recording. The coolest thing about the sequencer is you can actually record each of the 20 parameters on the synth per step. So you can transform the sound completely from one step to the next. And you can do that either in real time or you can do it by programming each step at once. There's also an editor for Mac PC and for iOS that works as a plugin, so you can automate all of your functions in your DAW and it will call them up again, or you can just access like additional functions like pulse width modulation, assigning the depth of these front panel controls, and of course bank management for storing and loading multiple banks. I could go on, but we're out of time. Unisynth from IK Multimedia, Synthplex 2009, Steve Fortner, thanks so much. Talk to you later, bye.